Alright, good morning everybody. Oh, let's see if I can make sure this is... No, it's too far. There we go. It's always the adventure. Okay. I am relatively complete on my basic pattern. So I've got a bunch of other stuff that I need to do to prep before I get to cutting out. Which I realized last night as I was patterning out the skirt, I don't have enough fabric. I was like, wait. I looked at it, I was like, I only ordered 3 yards. Oh, that was stupid. So I think I need to order another yard, which means that I'm trying to fit the jacket and trousers in the set that I've got. Because if I order enough for a skirt, I order a yard. If I order enough for a pair of trousers, I order a yard and a half, and I'm not spending $40. This is expensive wool. This is like one of the most expensive fabrics I've done, so. Missing a piece. It's like, I'm missing something. Escape. Okay, most of what I need to do is with the front. Hello, hello. You got chocolate. You to go to CVS and get more. Yeah, oh, it is half off chocolate day. I mean, yeah. It's basically Halloween light. Halloween without all the fun parts, but the candy at least, so there's that. There we go. That's more appropriate. I don't know why the camera on my laptop is skewed, so I actually have to like have my laptop like at an angle. I always forget that, so that way the background is not all wonky. Pink Halloween. Okay, I can see that. You just don't get the fun costume stuff or all of the like. The aesthetics aren't there. Okay, things I need to do today. I need to decide what I'm doing with the pocket. Think I kind of know. And I need to. I only have the one sleeve done right now, so I need to trace off the smaller, the undersleeve, and I need to figure out all of the facing stuff. I need to figure out the collar. That's the other part. I need to figure out the collar. I need to that out, facings, and all of that stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with facing. It's a little awkward. So there's a dart here that I don't actually want in the facing, which kind of makes it a little. Oh, I actually need to redraw that because that's not correct at all. How do I manage that? All of my redrawing skills. So double check that when I go to do it. Okay, so I just want to drop this down. Maybe easier just to drop that down slightly more. Yeah, we'll just do that. I gotta figure out how I want to deal with the facing on this. My brain just says shape it over the actual finished thing, which is going to be part of it regardless, but cosplayer separate Halloween from general crafting mentality. I sadly do not do costumey Halloween stuff. I honestly cannot remember the last time I did. I do the aesthetics of it by like decorating my house and watching movies and listening to music and all that stuff. But honestly, I wish my house just kind of looked like that year round. So I don't know. I just don't tend to like, the only time, I take that back, technically one of the steampunk conventions I went to was over Halloween. And so I did technically dress up very specifically for that because there was a ball that evening. And so I put on like something that was appropriate to both themes. But that was about it. So I think that's really been the only thing I've done. Okay, how do I want to deal with this? Because obviously Got that there. I think this is one of those things where you just kind of like, because usually I'm used to dealing with the dirt here. This is not that abnormal, but like it's a little bit bigger than I'm used to. It's got a little more like curve than I'm used to. It's one of those things where in some ways it's better to just like leave some extra on the facing and call it a day. The only reason I'm like patterning out the facing separately and all these things separately is because I'm limited on the quantity of fabric that I have, and I want to be able to lay as much directly onto the fabric as possible without having to like move stuff around back and forth. So yeah, Grenoble, interesting. Okay. It actually snowed today, or last night. Not a lot, because the ground's not super frozen, but it snowed. That's something. We needed it. I'm sure it snowed more up in the mountains than it did down here in the valley area. But there's just a light dusting here. Like just enough to like not cover the snow, but like 1/2 inch to 1 inch range that actually stuck. I don't know how much fell in the mountains because most of them are still in clouds. But they are decidedly more white than they were. What parts I can see are decidedly more white than it was yesterday. So hopefully they got a fair amount of snow. We need it. We are below snowpack, last I know. Last I heard, so. Like we were almost at, and then it just like ceased to do anything. Like we had a bunch of snow in October, a bunch in December, like a bunch in December, and then it just like stopped. We haven't had any rain or snow since then. So I'm actually really glad that I didn't try and like, originally I was like, I want to make sure that I can get my final video with the Gonzo outfit with snow. And by the time I got it done, it had been about a week since it had snowed, and I was like, should I? No, I have not. I don't have the time to wait there. I just need to schedule it and hope for the best in terms of like everything being okay video-wise, and just went for it. And I'm glad I did, because there was no way that was going to happen. This is the first time it snowed since, and it's not even much. We could have driven up into the mountains, I suppose, but you know, that's a lot of effort for the part that is not the most important. As I have come to discover, most people prefer reveals to be like no more than a minute and not terribly complex. Like, the more aesthetic the better, but you only have a short bit to do it, and so it's a lot of effort to go like all the way up and do a bunch of crazy stuff. I could put a lot of effort into it. It's just not worth it. Alright, that's just gonna have to get rolled over. Remind myself that I don't know what the heck's going on there. Okay. Facing. I also need to start writing on every single one of these patterns. What it is. Haven't seen snow. I forget it can snow there. It does snow here a lot. It is a high desert, not just a regular desert. So, while it is a desert, it has the full seasons and a bunch of other stuff. I like to say it's a desert, yes, but it's a desert where I can look out my window and see both snow and seagulls at the same time. So I don't miss much from high school. The choir was pretty awesome. Okay, I need to draw this down the rest of the way. Which I'm just going to keep getting narrower. Even if it was like also the reason for most of my annoyance. but I'm like I think I'm the only person that I know of from all of my performance stuff in high school who's actually doing something remotely akin to performance, and I find that greatly amusing. Hello. So. Oh yeah, even England. Yeah, England does technically have a desert. So. My brain's. Get to the sleeve in a minute. Let's work on the collar. Start here. Doesn't matter what angle I'm doing this, I'll figure out what angle it needs to be in the end. Okay. Technically in the version I was looking at, it kind of had me carry this over beyond just there. To there. That. The actual angle though is completely different. Okay, on the original angle, you run from there to there. So let's redraw a new angle because I don't really have one that's accurate at this point for the fold line. And we draw from, yeah, oh, so that was what it was before. Now it needs to be midway-ish. Oh, that dart might not really be in a good place now that I'm looking at this. That might be my problem. Alright, so we're going to have to ignore this. And we'll deal with that dart later. Yeah, we had, gosh, so much, I mean, extracurricular activities in certain places will heavily depend on the amount of money and like what your physical location is as to what sort of things you have. I was actually going back through some of my really old yearbook stuff from like when I was younger, not like high school yearbooks, but elementary school, middle school before I moved. And there were tons of extracurricular activities in my middle school that I was in 6th grade. And then I moved. I don't think they had stuff like that. Most of the like activity stuff at that point, aside from sports, was stuff like reading club or you know, we had like choir, orchestra, band, but like outside of classes, because those were classes, technically there was a theater group. Like most of them were like library school books. I don't like science occasionally, not much. We didn't have a lot. We did have a lot of choir stuff. We had 4 choirs. We had 4 choirs. I had to think about that. Yeah, we had 4 choirs at my high school. One was show choir. And then you had concert choir, which was like the next level down. It did include all the singing and dancing, but it was the upper level of singing. And then we had 2 others. One was an all girls, and one was the like beginner level sort of thing. And I know we had like multiple levels of things. We didn't really do much with like clubs. Like it was all activities like dance team, cheerleading, whatever. It was all very, it was usually sports adjacent as well. Now that I think about it, yeah. Like, which is not terribly surprising. Sports adjacent is pretty common for anything in the Midwest. Alright, so I think something like that is probably going to be the new fold line. That would make sense. Which is why that dart won't work there, because I changed that line so much and went back and forth. I didn't even think about the dart needing to move. Everything else changed. The dart needs to run more like to here rather than over there. That is some weird light. Sorry guys. I don't really have any like good... I thought I could even open that window today. This is cloudy out. I don't know if that'll help or hurt. Probably a little bit of both. But this dart just isn't in the right place. Like, it can start up here and that's fine, but it really needs to end like here-ish. Like over here. So it can start there, which makes more sense in terms of the angle that's at and everything too. So yeah, that'll be fine. We'll do that. Okay. Alright, so that's a start for our card. So we bring us it's hard to do with the dirt. That doesn't make sense anyway. Now we're good. Oh, it's a morning. It is a morning indeed. I am not doing my best today. Okay. That's about where that sits. Makes sense, and then that comes to about there. Okay, so we have a start and that. Okay, I need to get the shoulder seam and then back involved. 4-H clubs. I never did 4-H was around. I didn't do 4-H. My mom did, but she was also growing up in the 50s. So, good day. Hello, Hysteria. Yeah, we didn't. A lot of our stuff was like, I don't know. A lot of the things I did for extracurricular activities weren't like necessarily organized things. A lot of stuff was done outside of the school by other people. But truly and honestly, most of my, like, I moved a lot, and, what am I doing? I just need, like, not only did I move a lot, but my parents were divorced when as of, like, age 12, so I went back and forth between, like, summer and holidays and stuff like that, so whereas everyone else was, like, home over summer break, I was not. I was in a completely different area of the country doing other stuff. It's like, a lot of that was good stuff, but it was a very different experience than most of the people around me, I think. because I'd come back with all, what'd you do this summer? And I'd be like, oh yes, and I just blurted out all of the weird stuff that I had done. As far as they were concerned, it was weird stuff. I didn't realize it was weird stuff. Oof. Home was the other side of the planet, yeah. I didn't have to go that far usually. Like, I did a little bit of international travel, but not a ton that age range. With this, what I'm going to probably do is not actually cut out the collar until I can get the whole thing assembled, because I messed with the shoulder and all that a fair amount. So what I'll probably do is leave a space, because it'll be roughly this, leave a space for what I think the collar is going to be, and then like do it out of a muslin and try it on the actual suit as I'm making it. So I want to do basket weaving. Basket weaving is really fun. My mom used to do that back in the 80s. It was like in the 90s it was really fashionable. Fashionable. It sounds weird to say it that way. It was super trendy to do in like 80s, 90s. I don't like the amount of curve that's in there, but we'll see. Yeah, I went from a farm-based, I hesitate to call it a city, they call it a city, where I did most of my school stuff, to a, like, larger city. Okay. Oh, there we go. Yay, there we go. Hooray. Sorry, I was waiting on something and it just showed up finally. Okay. One second. Sorry, mail things. Mail-based problems. I don't need that much of a, do I? I really don't. I like that. Where, yeah. There's my reference material. That and that. That's about right. Okay. Let's do that and that. That's fine. I guess I'll fidget around with it in muslin. I actually have the whole thing partially put together. There is a vaguely collar-shaped thing to work off of. City adjacent. But yeah, I was a weird kid as far as everyone around me was concerned. Like, that's more the way to explain it. Like, what makes you weird is who you're around. I was not weird for a few years when I was put into a different class full of what would normally be considered weird, and then I was, like, super normal. And then I moved to a rural area. And I was really, really weird. Like, yeah. I at least had like a few years of feeling what normal was, like knowing that I was normal. So when everyone's like, you're weird, I was like, okay, you're boring, so what? Like, I have to, just being around other kids like you for a long enough time to recognize, and not just like a small group of friends like you, where you're all labeled as weird, but like a large enough classroom to to recognize like what normal is. It was a very interesting thing. Just like, yeah, I don't believe you guys. I think you're the weird ones. And then like where I went over the summers was also much more what I was used to in terms of types of people, so I was like, no, you guys are the weird ones. I had a grand old time just explaining that to them over and over. I'm like, actually in other places people do this. Or people are like this. Or... It was greatly amusing. Because the place that I lived was not a place where people really like got out much. And I had traveled a bunch, and like I said, traveled, you know, to where I went to over the summers and all that sort of stuff. So I saw things they did not in a lot of cases. So I was like, actually, no, this is a weird place. I think they were just confused, like, in the first few weeks where I was like, what is y'all? What does this mean? Can somebody explain this to me? Like, I distinctly remember having that conversation in 7th grade. It was greatly amusing. Okay. Undersleeve traced out. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to apply the decoration to this yet. Because what I want is, we'll pull it back out here in a second. So I'm going to do slants for the pocket openings, but I don't just want to do just a basic welt and leave it at that. Like I could do a welt, I could do little triangle embroidery things at the end, that would be cute. But I want like some repetitive lines on this. That's kind of been the purpose of what I was doing to begin with, was I wanted something with repetitive lines, either by way of folds of fabric or trim or stitching or something, and I've been going back and forth on how I want to do that, because I could do like essentially a super complicated welt where I do folds, because originally I was like, oh, I'm going to do some contrasted silk satin, and when I pulled out both fabrics yesterday and looked at them, I realized like there's almost no, on like that small of a scale, like a small welt, there is no visible shine difference between the wool satin and the silk satin. So doing that would be silly. If I have to do any sort of contrast on it, it's either going to have to be with a braid that is not shiny, folding the fabric, or stitching on the fabric. So I have to decide which I want to do. So I have options. Because I can, like I have wool braid, cotton things. So I can do like stripes of a little wool braid, like down at the bottom, down at like the pocket at the bottom of the sleeve. I could do that. I probably have enough of this. I can go get more. It's from a local place at least. I'm going to do something today. Give me a second. Let me grab some. Should have done this yesterday. Before I got everything into place. I get to have fun. Oh no. Getting it through is going to be the hard part. No. Okay. That's not going to work. You got too many things in one place. Give me one second to do something. I have to move the tripod and I don't want to make stuff wonky for you guys. There we go. I want to give myself a chair sometimes. Yeah, wool braid is really common. The original that I have has a wool braid like this on it. I realized that one of my problems that I get so tired from is the fact that if I'm standing that long, it is just absolute murder on my blood flow. So I was like, I should sit and like put my legs up occasionally. So hi. And I don't think I can drag that closer to me, unfortunately. Any sort of sensible way. Wish I could. I need to adjust all of that at some point. Point is, so wool braid, option 1, which is a very traditional thing. My only like issue with it is it does like, it is a nice, it's not technically all wool braid, it's like wool rayon or something, but whatever. Yeah, my knees are fine. I've just come to the conclusion I'm pretty sure that I have like Ehlers-Danlos or something in that range. So I'm like paying attention to things that would aggravate that and noticing that that is consistent and trying to do better lifestyle choices. Like, I bought a bunch of compression socks. Should help. But wool braid, I thought about doing it with, switch back to this so you guys can leave that there. Okay. So, wool, which I won't be able to get the shine for you guys because it's just so hard to do with black, but it's very shiny, I promise. So the other option is to literally like essentially do a whole bunch of strips of it, so you end up with like the folds of that type. I'm not sure there's any way that you guys are going to see this. I don't think I could do anything to make it more obvious, but I could do little folds, which is another option, but one that could start to get bulky. Like, it's a pretty thin wool, but it can start to get bulky, and I'm not sure it really reads like enough for it to be worthwhile. And I'm trying to figure out how to do the ends on that too. That's more of my complicated thing. Like, if I'm doing this, it's a really deep set sort of welt style, and I could tuck the ends into the fabric on the sides. That'd be okay. I just feel like I'd have to do a very petite quantity of it. Like, I couldn't do a ton without getting really complicated. I'm still going back and forth on that. It's just the bulk factor. Like, there'd be a lot of fabric in one place. I'm just sitting like this for this short period of time. My legs feel so much better. Or option number 3 is that I do things with like stitched base, like top stitchy embroidery sort of stuff, which would have the benefit of being able to put lots of lines in whatever sort of shape or style I want, because I could do repetitive lines. I didn't print it off. So one of the things that I have from a tailoring manual is a set of like the lower part of sleeves where it shows like different ways. And it's just showing like 4 or 5 what looks like lines of stitching that hits the buttonholes, and the buttonholes are at an angle, so it goes up to each one of the buttonholes. And it looks really pretty in the sense of it's simple, but it adds something to it. And so, embroidery could take up a lot of time if I was doing like fancy stuff. I don't think that'd be Now you got me thinking about fancy embroidery. Nope, nope, walk away from that. We're not going down that path. This would just be literally like a line of back stitching in a heavy thread. So it wouldn't be something that would take up a lot of time. I would just do probably pretty big back stitches. I just pick a very specific length and run it on this. The thing is that I can go ahead and get everything cut out regardless of what I do, because the pocket's going to be in the same place. The sleeve is going to have whatever it is applied to it, so I don't need other pieces. I don't think, like, I might do a sleeve cuff at most if I decide that that is what it needs, but that's going to be the extent of it in terms of additional stuff, like some scrap pieces, essentially. So, oh, velvet ribbon, yeah. The only issue with velvet ribbon is that it's got a very different weight, like stiffness usually, especially at that size. I think that's one of the reasons why you don't see that used as much, because it's usually really stiff. And hi. Oh my goodness, you just drank a bunch of water and very wet. Okay. So I don't know. Yeah, well, the black on black would be like embroidery sort of. Basically, I'm just trying to come up with like what I can do, yeah, texturally to create some geometric appearance. Come here, babe. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. Oh, puppy. So that's where I'm stuck right now, is just trying to figure out what I want to do with that. But again, it's not something that I need to decide yet. So what I think I might do, because most of it either depends on like the appearance, because it either has scraps or embroidery or whatever, but what I can do is test it out on scraps if I want to test out the embroidery and see what it looks like. If I want to play around with what the little pleating thing would look like, I can take some scraps and pleat that up. So I think my best bet right now is just to kind of figure roughly where it needs to be and like know that those are my 3 options, and then once I get it to its shell state, I can go ahead and like try that on the mannequin sort of thing. So yeah, my little spirit dog. This is where I look like it was opening on its own. Yeah, she just full on like headbutts doors. Just boom, into it. So yeah, it's just a question of what's going to be visible, what's going to be like, what's going to get the right effect, because like this has a lot of wonderful shine to it, and so it will show things like shadows and all of that really well. So pleats and all of that show up really well on this stuff, even in black, because it's so shiny. Like in person is just liquid. So yay, thank you. I can't read your name from here. It's a whole bunch of weird things. But I don't know. My brain just wants to know what I'm doing, so I can like picture this in my head, and as I get to points of decision, I know what the decision is, and I know I don't have to have them. And I gotta keep reminding myself of that it is not important what type of trimming I'm doing on this, because it won't actually make a difference in the cutting process. I still need all the same pieces, I still need all the same parts. Like, the only thing that it might adjust is going to be where I cut the pocket opening, because if I have a really deep welt of like lots of pleats, then that needs to not be cut near to the top of that, but cut at the bottom of that welt. So that's the only reason that I would need to like know that before I cut anything, but I'm not cutting the welt until I've got the whole thing like sorted and started. So that's not part of the initial cutting process. So I don't need that for this part. I just keep reminding myself of that. And then I don't have the fabric that I need to cut out the skirts, so I have the base skirt pattern done, but I have yet to figure out what is going on with that because I need to figure out what's going on with the jacket first. So, because that will affect the pockets and or yoke situation with the skirt, because the skirt option that I looked at had like some zigzag top yoke thing where there was like a pocket that was set at like an angle for the skirt, which I thought was kind of cool. So yeah, like this wool braid is really nice. I just don't have a ton of it right now, and like I don't really want to go get more, but I can. It's just not gonna, like, it's very visible in person. This is the wrong side of the fabric anyway, but it's also like a little heavier in the sense of the overall feel of it. And it doesn't have the whole, like, the vibe of supervillain quite the same way. It feels very historical. It doesn't feel quite as supervillain. So that's where I'm like stuck. I'm like, what gives me the right feel? And I know that the folded stuff, the folded strips, is something that you see pretty commonly in Marvel and in Star Wars and all of that stuff. Like, in terms of what is accurate for, like, to that feel, what people will read as that without recognizing why they do. Yeah, they do a lot of, like, sharp angles with stuff in those shows. And movies and everything, which is one of the reasons why I want to stick with that, like, sharp angle stuff. But, I don't know. Pitchforks. I'm not sure Pitchforks reads this villains. But I guess the only consideration, I'm like, am I going to regret something because I end up going, oh, well, I don't want to do a straight pocket, I want to do a, like, V pocket, in which case it would have made more sense to actually have, ooh, oh no, brain. So I was thinking the opposite way, but if I do it that direction, it'd be one of those, I don't know if I have anything I can just draw on really fast to explain it. Not really. Everybody's got their arm in the way. But kind of like what she's got going on there, but like a V, like an angle instead of a curve. But she's got like this weird pocket thing placed in there, but I was thinking if I did that and then extended that front piece down and like angled that, and then I could do. But again, I'm sitting here like, is it too much? Because I'm starting to feel like it's too much. Like, I kind of want it subtle and not like too much going on, but more like that sort of thing. I don't know, I'm starting to feel like I'm going too much. Like, yeah, it's got to be subtle. It's got to, because that's the thing. It's like, you can go overboard with this and have it be too busy, which is weird because it's black on black. But yeah. Yeah, they do read a bit more military. That is very true. Like, the other direction reads less military, but the V definitely does read a bit more military. That is a good way of, yeah, I think that's what's throwing me off on that. So, I think just the single, oh gosh, this dog is heavy. Somebody just report that, it'll go away. Wish there was a button I could press from here for that. There isn't. Okay, Bailey, I love you, but oh my goodness, you're kind of defeating the purpose of me sitting on this chair to do better blood flow when your butt is cutting off blood flow to half my leg. Yeah, I've tried to figure out how to, like, report those things, but it takes me more effort than it takes you guys to report it, from the looks of it, to ban somebody like that, so... Ugh. When it's, like, obviously just spam versus, like, somebody who's a problem and needs to be banned. But, I'm already famous. So... Ooh, yes, doggo. Okay. Fat doggo needs exercise and a diet. And she just needs exercise. Which isn't in general life. But she's, oh my goodness, also old and grumpy about that. And has, like, joint issues. So she's in acupuncture now. So we have that on Thursday. Yeah, we have more acupuncture on Thursday. Go see Dr. Barnes again. Yeah, I know. It'll be great. And she's getting a little bit better because of that, so that's good. Okay, there you go. There's some cuddle time. Cuddles were had by all. Okay. All right. Crack all of my joints. Wow. And let's get this cut out. We also have to play the game of, where did I put my pencil? Did I somehow grab it inside this fabric? No, I did not. Hey. Jeez Louise. You have an itch on your leg? Good gracious. Like, aggressive. Okay. I can delete the chat. Yeah. Okay. Cool. There's a bot. Sorry, bot. I'll look into that. I'm finding all of the stuff through, like, the stream service stuff. So I'm gradually setting stuff up, but I'm still learning how all of that works. And most of the things that I've seen in terms of, like, blocking and all that stuff tend to really focus on certain terms. And I don't... Since we seem in this group to have a habit of using words that it wants to flag anyway, that are completely innocuous under the situation that we are using them, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah. Definitely needs more than just a term. It needs a whole, like, sentence structure understanding. Yeah, eventually I'll probably designate a mod, but I don't have enough of a precise schedule or a busy enough chat to need that yet. Like, in the future, maybe, but I'm not too worried about it at the moment. That's a little ways off. Just because my hours are so weird. Yeah, you're not loud enough yet. Yeah, I mean, this is the most that happens, is occasionally a random bot pops in and is like, would you like followers? And everybody goes, no, and then they go away. Like, that is the most aggressive it's been. So until it ends up being an actual, like, problem, it's probably more harm than good to do a lot of effort on it. But I just keep watching YouTube videos on how to do stuff. Theoretically, I have little pop-ups so people do things now, and I'm slowly getting them organized in there. Just taking me a while to figure it all out. Because it's like, I can art, no problem. Digital art is not an issue for me, but it's all the technical. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Once I get a more consistent schedule, an idea of what I'm doing, it's just like... The problem is I'm not sitting and gaming. Like, this is obviously really intended for people who can regularly sit down and do something like every Tuesday night or whatever it is. For me, I'm like, depends on when I'm actually getting to this stuff. So I can feel comfortable scheduling, all right, Friday mornings I will try and find something to do. I will schedule my weeks around making sure that I have something for Friday morning, because I can always do art or whatever, but my schedule is not that predictable. It just depends on what I'm doing and where it fits in for the week. usually, admittedly, I am not the person to jump up and do this stuff in the morning. Ideally, this is what I tend to do in the afternoons, but I've gotten a lot more response from doing these in the mornings, so that's what we're doing. So, yeah. I'm also going to get a fancy rolling stick thing for everything to be on, so that way the laptop can actually be like here in front of me, but like elevated, so then I can actually reach it as need be, and I've got my little like button thing for most stuff, and I can have like my cell phone also on the second arm, like way up out of the way, so that way I can do stuff on that if I need to run that too. So yeah, and that's the thing, like I didn't expect, I tried afternoons and I tried mornings, and I just ended up I ended up with way more people when I did mornings. Like, okay, apparently I have like a European audience on here. Interesting. So I don't know if it's just like there's more people aware of Twitch as a not just gaming platform option. So, Stream Deck I love because I also use it for editing purposes. So it has become the precious. Because I can set it up with hotkeys for editing purposes, and man, is that like the best thing ever. So I have enjoyed being able to do that. I need to actually create my own images for everything I need for this, because like I have slight variations on everything, but the symbols just aren't quite managing for me in terms of differentiating, so I'm having to remember where things are. Like I downloaded a couple of visual packs and I just don't, it's not enough. It doesn't do what I need it to do, and I'm like, why am I bothering to go look for something when I know I can make it myself? So just need to do that. Okay, I will need pockets. I'm not going to deal with that. I don't have a bunch of weird linings and facings in the same way. I do need to figure out what sort of interfacing I'm using and where, but what I can do for right now is go ahead and pull out the black wool. I also don't have a lining fabric yet. I'm going to order that probably today. So, yeah. Yeah, most of them are going up on YouTube. I'm just a little behind on, they're like there, because I got to move them over within like a certain amount of time, otherwise they disappear off of Twitch. So they're there, I just haven't turned them on to like be visible. I have a set on there from like all of the stuff I was patterning, so that's all up on YouTube playlist. But you just have to go under playlists, so it won't pop up as like, I made a video, go look at this video. It's just a little different. So, oh, night shift person, yeah, I could see that. For morning streams, it'll just kind of like relax and you can go to bed. Oh my goodness, what? So, okay, so we've got all of the parts that I think that I need. Getting a facing. I technically went ahead and patterned out the base skirt and everything, but I'm not going to use that just yet because I don't think it's going to fit. Like, the odds of it fitting are pretty much nil. So it's like, why did I order 3 yards? And then my brain was like, you're doing a 3-piece suit. I don't know why. Like, I need 4 yards for that. 4 yards I could do skirt and trousers with a jacket. 3 yards is... no. Oh, plugin that automatically uploads to YouTube. I mean, it's not a hard process. All I need to do is go in and like click one thing on the videos, and then it just shows up on my YouTube, and then I just need to go through and be like, yes, show to people, be visible, because right now a lot of them are set to private until I get in there and actually put in like description and ads, because it puts ads in weird places. It used to be that the recommended locations for ads on YouTube was like logical. It is pure chaos now. So if you ever end up like going to someone's video and there are ads in it and then they're just in the most nonsense places, it's because they just let it auto-populate. Oh, you're half an hour early, ma'am. It's only 10 o'clock. Why are you fussy now? You're not... Oh. You're not supposed to be fussy until 10:30. We figured a schedule for this. You've been consistent. Yeah. Why are you not consistent today? Why are you being a butt? With the stuff that I do, I promise the stuff I do is not easy. It's just because I've done it so much. That's why it looks easy. It's like anything else that you watch, you know. Like the joke is always, before the Olympics start, you should always have just a normal person go through and do all of the attempt all of the Olympic things so we can actually see how hard it is. It's like that. You know, Olympians train for their whole life to do this thing. I've been doing this since I was a child, so when it's like, this looks easy. Well, yes, if you have been doing it for more than 30 years, it would probably be relatively easy to you. Okay, ma'am. Alright, so on that bark, I'm gonna have to like take her downstairs. Give me a minute. We'll do intermission here, which is, I don't feel like I've done much, but apparently we're doing early intermission today. Yeah, we'll go. I think it's because I've started giving her a treat when we go downstairs, and so now she's like, no, it's treat time. So, yeah, but the question is, like, even if you've been sewing since you were like 3, did you go to school for it twice over? And like, it's been a huge part of my life since high school. So I started doing costuming in high school. So yeah, I've been full on sewing, like, technically professionally for like almost 20 years. So yeah, okay. Alright. I guess I'll be back in a moment, you guys. Bear with me on that. I will be right back with some toast and preferably a less grumpy puppy. Oh, you sass. Where am I going? There we go. Hello again. All of the things have been done that need to be done, aside from the fact that I'm going to put crumbs everywhere. Hooray. Okay, dog went out. Oh, now the sun's coming out too. No, no. There we go. I don't want to overdo it. Brioche. But I've decided I think I need to get a new toaster because it is burning my brioche like really fast. Only on one side though, so which is what makes me think it's the problem with the toaster. So, like, I've got it like set on like a 2 out of 7, and like, it is burning it. So, like, I think that's gonna work. Okay, so, complicated pieces first, figuring that out. It burns my brioche. So, I'm really excited about the trouser pattern. I have quite a few trouser patterns, and so I was trying to decide what I wanted to use as my base. And I had pulled out the 1920s men's one that I had made like a couple years ago. I was like, oh, you know, if nothing else, I'll use that. Like, that's pretty... I know that works pretty well. Like, I might need to make some minor adjustments to it. I'll try those on. And I was like, you know, I'm curious about the trousers that I made back in, like, I don't know how many years ago, like 5 years ago at this point, that were for my cutaway coat, like tuxedos is usually what it's called today, but tailcoat. And I happen to have those still sitting in a ball in my to-do pile, because they needed some repair work when they were worn by somebody else that, like, just was a little bit bigger thigh than I was when I made them. So, yeah, I've just made up my own vintage trouser patterns at this point. But, so I had gotten halfway through that repair. I did all the fine little hand stitching and, like, getting it attached to some sort of backing, and it was, like, really nice, and I just hadn't, at the time, did not have black machine thread on my machine, and just set it to the side before I stitched up the last couple, like, restitched the seams, and there it sat for like 3 years. Actually, it's been, yeah, over 2 years. So it's like, I finally fixed that, and I tried them on, and was like, well, one, these are, like, hilariously too small for me. So that is not happening. Like, if I, like, sausage casing myself into them, that's the only way that's gonna happen. But, aside from the fact that they were too small, they were the most amazing pair of pants that I've ever put on my body. So, I was like, these trousers are just, everything looks so good. So, I was like, alright, I'm gonna use this pattern, and I'm going to adjust it slightly. Like, just make it big enough to fit. So I, like, added a little bit in that area and, like, changed some things. So yeah, no, I turned around and was like, oh, that's how I've always wanted pants to fit. Okay. I can't do that tight because these don't stretch that much, but so I decided to use that pattern. I decided to make it a little bit different because I already own quite a few, obviously, pairs of black pants. Trousers. You guys are gonna look at me weird if I keep saying pants. Trousers. But I don't know. Eventually those were out. Eventually I need new ones. My narrow-legged ones are reaching a point of, like, just kind of being a little stretchy in the wrong places. Like, they have a little bit of stretch to them, and they just don't hold up as well. So, I've kind of been like, over those. Alright, so I got my 2 trouser bits. big skirted front thing. This is going to be the awkward thing, but I don't want to start with this because of this curve. Because if I started with that there, I'm going to lose the whole corner down here. And I have to be real economical with this one, so. Oh no! It threw away a treadle machine, no! Also, like, it technically, I'm able to turn that slightly in terms of the angle, but it's just, I feel like I lose a fair bit of this. It's mostly this corner up here that I'm, like, losing. There's not really something I can cram into that corner. So that means that this has to be further down in some format. So let's decide. Option one is either to get it like midway, but then I definitely want to figure out how I can fit stuff into here. So let's work on that. And things can shift up and down as I go. I'm going to start with it this direction. My grain line and its grain line are two different things, and that's fine. We're just going to try and figure out what's going to fit up here. How can I make that work? Because, like, obviously, you know, you can work trousers in to some extent in that area, but and that doesn't quite work there. Doesn't really do much for that angle. What are you talking about? Oh yeah, treadle machine's just being, yeah, I have a treadle machine, but I never use it because it's not sorted, as it were, in terms of being functional. Like, it's functional, but not all the pieces that I need. Alright, so those don't really work. But the things that might be a decent use. I gotta leave enough for seam allowance too, but that would fill in that acute corner in its smaller section, so that's a possibility. I have not only the machine, but like the table for mine. I just don't have, the table needs a small repair. So that's an option. We also have this, which would squeeze into that corner really well, so that's another choice. That's going to be too much. And at some point I will just open up the fabric and like utilize it better, but oh yeah, and the Northeast and the Midwest and like Ohio to Pennsylvania, particularly like Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, that swath there for antiques. Just everywhere. Okay, so that's an option. That sticks out too far. Wow, it's just one. That's weird. That feels really weird. Do that. That would fit into that space really well. Is there anything I have that would fit into here really well? Other than, not even that really does. Like, it's just like, that's another awkward corner. So yeah, we're just playing like a puzzle game of what pieces will work well with what spaces. I try to do this when I don't have a lot of fabric, like early on, to start playing around with what can possibly go where. Where did that go? Maybe that's where the, yeah. Okay, so usually the undercollar is on the diagonal. I have a video of me making trousers. I have two, actually. So. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's just, that's the thing. Sewing machines are like in, like, just lumps. Alright, so if I do this one on the bias, that actually fits really well into that little space right there. So that will take up that quantity. So I'm starting to figure out options that fit well with this. If I need a smaller one, I can put that there. to. Although, like, I don't necessarily have to put that there. But... Okay. I don't really have anything else. I mean, that's long and skinny, but I'm trying to see if there's a way I can work this up, but then I lose that corner up there. So, this works in terms of this goes in this corner and either one of these go here. The whole thing is going to have to shift down from the end either way so I don't lose the chunk up there. So let's do that slightly. Let's see what we can get up into here that would work well. Maybe the sleeve. Remember, mine's from somewhere around like the 19 teens. It was my, I assume, I'm pretty sure it was my great aunt's, something like that. Like, I don't think it was my great grandmother's. Okay, well, that curve fits in pretty well. It's not perfect. It's a little awkward. And maybe that's better. It's not too bad. I'll lose a little bit there. Well, if I put that there, that's going to take it even. That might be the answer. If I put that there, and that comes up to there, that's actually a really good match there. That doesn't quite do as much length as I would like. But I'm leaving a chunk that I don't like, but I'm getting somewhere with the possibility. If I do that in there, oh, I'm starting to get, oh, okay. I'm not losing too much off of this. That leaves my trousers kind of to themselves, which is not a bad thing. Then I just have these two pieces currently that wouldn't fit into this chunk. But they're narrow enough, I think they might fit next to my trousers. And this might do really well. I can get trouser ankle up in there. Okay. All right, let's shift this. This is also why I don't listen to whatever the descriptions are on patterns of how to lay stuff out. Like now I can do it better. And if I don't have enough fabric, like the amount of fabric you can save by doing single layer, I just don't like doing that if I don't have to, purely because of the like size of doing it. Yeah, well, that's the thing, you gotta remember, they're doing it with the assumption that they have to do it for a few different sizes, and so depending on what size you're choosing, it may end up being that it's way more economical for you to do a completely different thing there. So, oh man, I wish that fit there. I feel like it should, but it doesn't. I wonder if there's something I can do with. That's like the thing that I'm kind of losing a chunk here to everything. I don't like that I'm kind of losing like, I can get this in multiple places, obviously, but this or something. Like, this here makes sense because it's the right length to match with that and that. there's, like, this is such a nice, this is so similar there. I don't think that flipping that around is going to make the difference that I need. Okay, I can bring it further that direction by a bit, but I don't think that's going to help either. Maybe you could I don't think that would help. No, that's just awkward. Nope. Gotta go that way. Okay. It's like those two fit so well together. Like I know this would too, but then I'd be left with a much bigger piece that I've got to handle. Rather than trying to fit this down there somewhere. I'm just trying to make use of the fabric that I've got rather, it's not like I'm worried I'm going to fit stuff in now. I'm just like, how little space can I manage to take up with all of this? That's always the goal. It's always the challenge. Co-working is like a thing. Yeah, they'll be up on YouTube. But like the only problem with that is that you end up with like, I could set it so the chat like runs visibly on the screen, but I feel like that takes up so much of the screen to do that. So this is like an option. My other question that I now have in my brain, I've got this collar. It's gonna need to be there. Aww. Okay, that's also a thing. So, you guys can't see it, but the collar, this little piece, if I'm putting it on the fold, actually takes up nearly all of that little corner that would be lost. So I could flip this. I could flip this. I think I might actually just rotate it. And then I can utilize that empty space down here for the trousers. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. Sorry. Brain fully functional. So let's rotate this around. I had an easier time cutting the back over here, I think. Oh wait, no, I can't rotate that around because I need that to be on the fold. So flip. Needs to flip as well. Okay. That's fine. So I need this to be able to go down here, roughly in that space. Then I can get this to roughly there. I'll get a little bit more for whatever I need. About an inch at the bottom for the hem stuff. Then this will go ish. This will go roughly there. So I could do this in here on the diagonal, up in there one way or the other. I just wish I could utilize that better. Can I now? No, this is too much of an angle to get in there. I just feel like I'm missing something with this. I don't know what. Because getting that down there, it's got to go all the way back to there, and that's really... losing a lot there. And like I could probably... no, that's too close. I just feel like I'm losing something in this space. Like there's a chunk of space, and I don't like the fact that there's a large chunk of space open there. I know it should be okay. I'm not that desperate, but I feel like I am. Yeah, we don't really have very many good antiques around here, unfortunately. Like, West Coast, but not West Coast enough. Yeah, it's just kind of like being familiar with the shape of the stuff. Like, where could what work? Like, if this was a narrower piece, I could squeeze it, like, you know, in here really well. Like, these two pieces fitting next to each other is really common with the two sleeves. That's a really good one. But it's not quite enough unless I remove this back piece. But at that point, the bigger problem with the back piece is it's long versus, like, having to put this somewhere else. It's going to take up less length, but pretty similar width. So it's more logical. It's the short pieces that you save for last. Those are easier to fit than the long ones. Don't save your long bits. Like, I know I'm saving the trousers, but I know how much I've got. Like, don't save your, oh, I also have the facing. That's the other part I'm forgetting. I knew I was forgetting something. That's why I made that piece. Not that I think that's necessarily going to fit into any of this because it's an awkward angle. But I am forgetting the facing, which is kind of a weird one. That might end up being something that... It's not like too... That's going to be a rough one, isn't it? Ooh. Potential benefit to utilizing that. Okay, that's a possibility. Like, it's got an awkward angle on it, so I gotta figure this thing out. If I do that, I can't put that sleeve there, but I should be able to get maybe this sleeve in here. If I do it just right. If I do everything just right, I might be able to get this situated. I think I can do that. Okay, see, that's better, because then that takes care of a long piece that it's going to get a little awkward, but I think I can fit the trousers on either side of the extension that's sticking down there, so that's okay. So I'm left with these things that go here. Okay. We're getting somewhere. Do I feel confident enough to chalk a little bit of it? Probably. Oh, you have to sew up ponte? Oh, point shoes. I thought you were going to say knit ponte. I'm like, ugh. Yeah, I do feel like knowing how to sew in ballet is kind of like a necessary life skill for that particular thing. Not just from like a costume standpoint, but also, yeah, shoe repair and all that. Okay. We're going to rough some chalking. In part because I don't feel like really getting this stuff in exact positions yet and sharpening my chalk down too. So we're just going to really roughly, actually what I'm going to do is really roughly chalk about where the actual seam allowance lines will be. That's what I'm trying. It's like, words are hard. So, loose concept of what's happening here. So that way I can move some pieces off the table and scoop the fabric down. I like doing that. I like doing that system of things so I can double check myself as I go. do actually want to add a little bit to this, because that's the front shoulders. I need to add a little more there. Square neckline. Oh, the sides next to the square neckline is falling. Wait, I'm sorry, I missed something. Square neckline falling off shoulders. Oh yeah, the neckline of the open neckline thing. That's a tough one. I definitely have a shift that is like I've at this point pretty much given up on it being like ever really going to fit me properly. It works well enough. I just can't. It is not for public consumption, I like to say. Like once stuff is over it, it's fine. But I could not do a fitting video with that. Okay. Oh, wait, do I need... Theoretically, it would be good for me to have... No, I'm just going to fake the buttons. I'm not going to do real ones. We're not... Even if I put real buttonholes in there, I'm not putting... I don't need to make it open and close. That is not at all a necessary thing in life. Okay. Goodness. Just extra grumpy today. Myself like an extra half-inch here that I don't actually have. Okay. These down here. This one gets set into place. Gotta come down here anyway, so that's okay. Good. Right. Push this down quite a bit then. To there. Let's see what we got. Quite a bit left. Hooray. Okay. Still good. I still have quite a few pieces, but I think this is the point. Got one straight color, we'll see a diagonal one. This is the point where I think it'd be good for me to bring out the trousers and see how those might interact or fit in this space. As like, that's tight fit, but man, is it like exactly the fit that I need. Look at that. Look at that. That just right up against that line, right up against that line. Oh, that'd be a nice place for that. Okay, so that's a good chance of that one. Get use of that space. Well, the only problem with that is I don't have room for a... it's a little too snug then. But I might be able to make it work. No, come back. Oh, I sound old when I move. That's not good. Alright, so that's less ideal just because of the... If I do that, I can also just do that. Like that's... I can also flip this over, whichever one it is. Less ideal, but No, because I really need that. Yeah, that one's going to be better sticking out somewhere. Okay, so I don't think that's ideal for trousers either way, which is a little annoying. I could just squeeze that in there though. That's a possibility. Can I get it here? Can't quite fit that widthwise. I could piece the fork though. That is an option, but it's not particularly great fit either way. That's better, and then I can utilize that. That's what we do. All right. That's always better there because then you can utilize the little printed portion that you can't actually use anywhere else. All right, so that trouser goes there because that makes the most sense. Right. Don't think I'd be able to quite get anything else situated in there unless I move it pretty far down. So we're not going to do that for right now. There's a good chance that goes there. If I put the sleeve there, I could then fit a few things in, but the issue with that would more quickly be the fact that I'm not sure I have enough length beyond that for the trousers. Not quite. So the trouser has to be somewhere a little more up. Otherwise I'll run out of length options real fast. I don't like that I'm losing out on this space. Like I can get something in there, but not. Is it one that I could probably? No, because like this is at a weird angle. So I get like a little more up in there, but not much. I don't think I get the. Can't fit that. You guys are just along for the ride now at this point of my experimentation with the Tetris situation of patterns. Yeah, black work would be really fun. I love patterns. It's one of my favorite parts about the whole process. I am weird. I acknowledge this. All right, so technically I think, because I'm not sure that the design, grain line on my pattern is really the best grain line for these trouser backs. So I'm going to, it really should be a little more though. Like a little bit off one thing. This is a lot. Although, this thing I was going to have to figure out how to do a grain line about like that for my plaid pair I'm using. If this turns out well, I'm using it for the plaid trousers as well, and so I'm going to need it is about like that. Which would work. That's about where I need it. Okay, so I think that works. Leaves me with this little chunk here, but that is not the worst thing in the world. The only concern I have now is, can I utilize that? Ooh, that's going to be a little tight, but it's not too bad. This might just need to scooch a bit. I'll just have to lose that. That leaves me with a sleeve and 2 small things. Go down there, and that's plenty of fabric for that. It's one of those things where it's like, I know I don't have to be this economical, but I also wanted to challenge myself. Like, how much can I? Oh no. It died? It might have died. Oh well. Yep. I will definitely sell that. See, the thing is, when you look at like the way things used to operate, the way that costume shops operate today or whatever, you have somebody who's specifically, or tailoring shops for things like that, you do have somebody who specifically does all of the cutting. That is a separate job. Sometimes patterning and cutting are together. Sometimes patterning and cutting are separate entities. In a lot of tailoring, you actually draw out on the fabric, so you might as well cut it out yourself. But patterning and cutting are separate from the sewing portions. So if you like doing one and not the other, that's fine. That's normal. I mean, there's a reason why they separated that out before. It's a good, like, it's not a bad thing for that. It's a good experience to have people that like different ways of approaching things. Okay, so I've got that. All right. Lose out on that, which is not a big deal. It's a really tiny area. Like, that's fine. I kind of expect that. The other question I have, though, if I scoot that over, can I gain this little chunk back? If I do... Oh, because then I got... let's see. Let's see what happens if I do that. There's no harm in checking on that. If I bring that down and over, lose a little bit of weirdness there, but can't gain back a whole sleeve. And I'm not sure there's really, nah. I feel like I'd have to scoot that so far down, and whatever I'm gaining on the side is not actually usable. So you're going back there. Advantage of that. Wherever I hit that, there we go. Okay, that still makes the most sense. Using like diagonal sections is the hardest. Oh. You work on your sharpening. Oh, you practice leathercraft. Cool. Leather is its own animal. Use that in the slang format. And leather is very much its own mess of things, as I've learned over the years. But there are definitely overlaps. I've also found weird things like wood carving to be strangely useful in the educational process of what I do. So, and sculpting with clay and all those sorts of things, so you never know. Yeah, I think it's just like there's so many more videos and so much more information out there on how to do fabric sewing than leather sewing or leather work of any type. I was just very fortunate that in Williamsburg I knew a bunch of people that work with leather, and so I got to learn a lot of different leather-based things. One of the things I wish I could have done more are the leather breeches. That was a really fun one. Go back. He'd let me into the shop if I just go back. He's like, I'm gonna stay here for like a week and make breeches. He totally would let me. That was Jay. So that's my rough line. I can go back and be really precise. Scoot everything back and be really precise then for that round, but like this gives me a rough idea to make sure that everything squeezes in as economically as is possible. the biggest annoyance with fabric is the grain line. Like, I know there's some grain line to leather to some extent, where like certain areas are better for certain things. They're to watch for like inclusions and thicknesses and parts that are stretchier than others or whatever, but like also, you know, if you fidget it back and forth a little bit, that's fine. Versus the end of the world that comes if you don't follow grain line. Training video for work, you. Work. See that like this isn't work for me. Okay. At least making good use out of the fabric that I've got. Even if I won't be able to fit the skirt into this. Should have just bought that extra yard. I think it was because I bought a black knit skirt at around the time I ordered this fabric that's also going on the trip with me. But the more I've thought about it, the more I was like, I would like this to, one, be a complete suit, and two, two black skirts on a trip is not a bad thing. Like, let's be honest with myself on this one. I will make use of them. So, because the plaid suit, that's just trousers. The green suit, I don't know if I'll get around to making the skirt for that, probably. I probably will. I have enough fabric for that. Then I've got a few dresses. Might manage to make that burgundy one I still need to do to match the jacket that I made like 2 years ago. Good intentions, man. Which is not surprising. Managed to make a jacket for my Europe trip beginning of 2020, and then was like, I'll make the skirt. I don't have time to make the skirt. I'll make that when I get back before I have no reason to make it. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm like, I don't have a reason to make anything right now. Okay. Yeah. So I'm finally back to the, okay, travel is potentially on the horizon. So I have reasons to make things right now. Everything is always tentative. Right, I gotta drink my tea, otherwise it's gonna go cold because my mug's dead. Yeah, fitting the chest versus fitting the neck. Big complications. Like, I know a lot of people that are full or busted that end up putting, like, darts and changing angles of straps and stuff like that to deal with it for that reason. Capsule wardrobe life. I mean, yeah, capsule wardrobe is literally what I'm doing for this. That's going to be not my next video, but like one of the ones after that. Vintage capsule wardrobe. I'm talking about the actual... I've done research onto what they do too, so that'll be part of it. Let me turn this other light on. A little more light from the front. I have these fun little light things. I need to get more of them. But yeah, vintage capsule wardrobe. That actually, while I talk about that, let's take my break, sit down, drink my tea like I'm supposed to, and talk about the fun that is vintage capsule wardrobes. I'm so excited about this video, you guys. I've been actually, doing research on vintage capsule wardrobes for like 5 years at this point, but that basically is what I've been doing. Back in back at the university when I was in grad school, it wasn't college, I was going through a whole bunch of magazines. They had in the library that was near to the building I was in most of the time, they have a very large quantity of like Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, all of those sorts of things. So my I have an hour to kill before the next class was essentially, here we go, to go just flip through those year by year. And so I was taking pictures of shoes in them, just recording anything, and I kept coming across essentially capsule wardrobe things. Most of the time it was describing it as like on a budget situations. So like, it's the new season, it's spring, and what should you buy this spring? Which is also interesting to me because the descriptions of what you should buy are usually the ones that actually get quoted by people that don't understand history as this is what people owned. 3 dresses, a suit, like, 5 blouses, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, that's what they're supposed to buy every year. You don't wear out of your clothes after just a year. You can remake them, or they're still good. Like, so that, I always find that interesting, that those things that are quoted as, like, this is what you should buy every year, are the things that get, like, quoted as, this is what you own. It's like, no. It's like, no different than, like, I don't buy huge quantity. I don't go out and, like, completely refresh my wardrobe every year. That'd be crazy. But they have all these great descriptions of, like, if you're going through a major change, like going off to college, there are tons of these really great articles, starting in the 19-teens at least, that are like, if you're a girl going off to college, here's what you need. Here's the little capsule wardrobe that you should get in order to cover you for college. And if you have other stuff to bring with it, that's great. But here's what you will need for your base of things, like your adult clothing. In the sense that, like, there's an assumption that you'll have some things to begin with that are in addition to that, or that you will continue to add things to it. But when you're going off to college for the first time, what should you take? Like, what sort of, like, because we don't have the internet back then. There's not a way to know what college life is like. Adult workwear start. They're doing that. There are companies that entirely function on capsule wardrobe concepts. They do that for a lot of workwear, like office workwear, nicer workwear, whatever, professional clothes. I don't remember. I keep getting ads for this one company that does it, where it is very, like, the only unfortunate thing about most capsule wardrobe stuff is that it's very, like, clean cut, basic. Like, it's not super interesting, but you could definitely add things that are interesting to it if you wanted that. But there definitely are some of those. Yeah, about a bunch of adult clothing for the university. Yeah. Yep. Like, my biggest changeover for me was recently when I moved out here and was like, I'm gonna do all this fashion stuff all the time, and then COVID. So this is me, like, reapproaching my wardrobe for being out of my house again, because my wardrobe for the last 2 years has been built up to stuff I'm wearing around the house, which is not stuff that I'm happy wearing out. Yeah, reuse, refashion. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do with what I've got too. But, so they talk a lot about if you're going off to college, if you're going on vacation. Hi. The harder part for me was finding the vacation ones that weren't for warm weather, or like warm cruises or stuff like that, because most of them were based around going somewhere tropical and warm, even like back in the 19-teens. So yeah, that's something that I've been searching for. I found some that talk about transatlantic and some that talk about colder weather or traveling through Europe for a week or whatever it is. The fun part about all of it is, like, in the 1920s, 30s range, they start talking about the fact that, like, people are bringing bags instead of trunks. It's the new trendy thing to have, like, a luggage bag rather than a, like, big, hard-shelled trunk. So I'm finding that amusing as, like, a variety. Like, how we change how we travel. Because, obviously, in modern day, a trunk is just, it's not feasible. Like, you don't have people, like, that would be paid very little money to just move that around for you. Unless you're really rich and actually paying them a fair amount of money. Yeah, so I definitely, like, I'm really excited about not only the research aspect that I get to share with how they did capsule wardrobes in their own versions, like, what should you get this season, what should you get this year, sort of things. Sometimes they have ones, and it's more often starting in the 1930s that you start seeing the how to make one piece work in lots of ways. Like, here's a base dress, here's 5 different ways to style it. That comes in more 1930s, 40s, which is not surprising because Great Depression and World War II mean that you need to make that one dress go a lot further. So that's much more common to see those then than like 19-teens, 1920s. The biggest recommendation I was seeing in teens and 20s is get a suit. If you don't have a lot of money to throw at clothing, don't buy a dress, buy a suit. Because then you can do a lot with it. You can, put different tops with it, different coat can go over a dress, and like in some of the more not as high class magazines will talk about like how a nice suit, like you can put a suit jacket over a dress that's starting to get worn out because you're more likely to have wear and tear up here, so therefore you can put your suit over that, and like with a cravat or something you can use the skirt portion or shorten it up or whatever. So yeah drag a solid wooden chest everywhere. You definitely had people paid to do that. One of my favorite examples of that, I did a bunch of research into a family, and that most of my research into them was done 1860s, 1870s. They had tons of records. So I was able to really piece together a very good picture of their travel through Europe in the 1860s, which I'm pretty sure was in no small part due to like, war is getting boring, let's go take a trip through Europe. Like considering the time of it. And come here. Come in. I don't even know where you are. Why are you over there? Silly. And they, at the end of this trip through Europe, went on an absolute shopping spree in Paris. That was the last big place that they stayed. I think they went back up to England and then over to back to Boston from there. But their big final shopping trip, they saved until Paris at the very end, because they went from like London down to Paris and did like a loop through Italy and back up again. Bought a few things here and there, but nearly everything was purchased in Paris in that last like week and a half. 2 weeks, everything got made up, and then the very final thing that they had to purchase, the very last receipt that they have, because they had receipts for everything, and I had his bookkeeping, and I had their day-to-day diaries, so I knew exactly where they went on what day, and when the bills came in, and what the bills were. Everything was saved. All the receipts. And the last thing that they bought were more trunks. More travel trunks. I was like, that is not at all shocking. Oh, the details were glorious. It was along with the pair of boots, the 1864 boots that I reproduced, because they had the museum has the boots, the receipt for the boots, the notation in her diary that she went and did shoe shopping that day, and the additional like marking in his account book of when he, paid that bill. So like, that's how much that you never have that for that far back. Like having a receipt for an actual object just no, it doesn't happen. I'm a little disappointed. They also got photographs taken in their new stuff, but you can't see her shoes. Like that would have been the perfect ending to that. There's a chance unfortunately the clothing that she had was in the middle of being like cleaned or something, so I couldn't see it last time I was there. I need to go back and actually see all of her clothing, because I'm pretty sure at least one of the gowns that's in there is going to be the one that she got the picture taken in, or some part of it. And if it's that, then it's something that she probably bought in France. We have the whole thing, because it's like her in it would have been the final thing, which like there's a good chance she was wearing those shoes in that picture. She got the photograph taken like 2 days later or something. Just can't see her feet. I was like, if I'd just seen like even just a smidge of the toe with a little bow on it, that would have been enough. I would have been like, that's it! That would have been the perfect ending to the whole thing. But yeah, I spent a good long time in Boston and surrounding area doing research into that and her life and everything, because they have so much. Basically what happened was the house with everything in it was donated to the Historic Society. And everything in it was, because it was like her grandkids that I think donated it. She lived until the 19-teens, because she was writing letters to World War I soldiers. So I know she lived pretty late, but I don't think she was the one occupying the house at that point. But I can't remember if they're kids or grandkids, that she didn't have a lot of grandkids. Most of her children did not have children, or only had like one or two. They all went off, because I don't know, I need to do a ton of stuff on this family, because it is the most interesting family to me. Like, just, her sisters, their story, like, they have letters back and forth, because one of her sisters lived in Europe for a long time, and had the most interesting and dramatic life, and it's all in these letters back and forth, and in diary entries, and receipts, and all that. It's just, and you get this picture of these people, and the fact that they were wealthy enough to be eccentric in, like, not the, like, oh, wealthy eccentric person way, but in the, like, no, like, she very much loved her husband. At some point, they decided they were not romantically interested in each other, and he took up with her sister. This was okay. Like, everyone knew about it. It was okay. Sally, shoot. I got Ogden. Starts with a B. I don't know. And that's the thing, like, it was, from what we can tell from the letters, because this was well after the kids were all grown up, out of the house. I think she wanted to go do more city things and be more active and be more interested in the community, and he just kind of wanted to, like, not leave his house that much and just kind of be a homebody from the sounds of it. And her sister was a widow at that point, and she just kind of started spending time with them a bunch, and it just kind of became this, I think you get along better with my sister, and she kind of wants to do what you want to do. So I'm going to go off and do my own thing. And she became this very independent, very, like, activist person. Like, she was very, very forward and very much an activist in a lot of things. Like I said, we have a bunch of letters. Hello, yeah, I do now. I do stream now. And she has a whole bunch of letters, like I said, to World War I soldiers, who were over in Europe, and she was writing to them and sending them gifts and stuff like that. So, yeah. I think, like, she's just an interesting person. Throughout her entire life, and we have so much record from her. Like, the stuff that she and her sisters did with her dad in order to get them married to who they wanted to get married, they were conniving, like, in a very, like, honest way, but, like, not, like, they weren't duplicitous about anything. But man, it ended up being the perfect example for me about the idea of women didn't have power. They had to marry who their family wanted them to marry, and they couldn't, and it was like the perfect example. Even though they were wealthy, therefore in some ways it was more important who she married, and therefore, like, she had to marry, like, at her same level, because she was considered one of the Boston Brahmin, is the title that they were usually given. Ogden. Yeah, it's Sarah, she's all over the New England Historic Society collection website. So if you look up Sarah Ogden, it'll bring up the rest of the name of stuff. I just can't remember the rest of her name right now. It's in my thesis. She's in my thesis a ton. But, because that was my main person that I used as my, like, anchor reference point the whole way. But yeah, she's on the New England Historic Society site. Her whole family is, like, dramatic. Like, all of them. All of the records. Because her dad kept a lot of records. Her husband kept all of his records. Her son kept a lot of records. Like, everybody kept records. But she wanted to marry the guy that she ended up marrying. Her dad was like, no. Like, she was in, like... Yes, Codman, there you go. Sarah Ogden Codman. That's it. Codman. There's a B in there for something else at one point. Yes, that's it. Codman. But she wasn't, like, the guy that she was interested in wasn't quite, like, it wasn't, like, way below her level, but, like, it was, like, a little, like, it's not quite the perfect match for you. You're definitely not marrying up. Because they weren't, like, the highest up of the level of the Boston, but they were pretty, like, they were in the upper tier, but the lower end of the upper tier. And so I think she was middle also. She was the middle daughter. The oldest daughter is kind of like, I'm going to go to Europe for a while. And middle daughter, Sarah, managed to convince her father through a series of really hilarious events to let her marry this guy. Like, he was banished by her dad to Europe twice. Like, you are bothering me, you are here too much, I'm not gonna like you if you're here all the time, you need to go do something far away from me. And he went and did 2 European tours to, like, stop annoying her dad. Like, she worked with him. We have the letters back and forth with her planning with her sister and her future husband how to present these things to her dad in a way that makes it seem like her dad had the idea. And everything. Like, she's like, all right, I'm going to talk to him. Here's how I'm going to say these things. This is what's going to go down. And not only did she manage that, which is like a pretty moderate level of manipulation to get her dad to agree to this guy. I think he was just like, I'm not ready to have you get married yet. Less so than like, it's a really bad choice. Just took a little bit of time. And then her older sister, who went off to Europe, she fell in love with a French military, like upper military guy who was a widower with 2 children. Her parents came all the way over to Europe to tell her no. And Sarah still worked enough with her sister between the 2 of them to convince their parents and make it so that she actually got married to this guy and led like the most dramatic and interesting life, because there's all these wars happening with France in like 1870s and all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, he ended up being a prisoner of war for a while, but it was like upper classes, so she actually went and lived with him. They had 1 child who did not survive, died really young, about the same time that one of Sarah's really young children died, and so there's all these letters back and forth from these grieving mothers, and about the same time their father passed away, and so we actually have descriptions of their mourning attire and how long they were going to be in mourning and what they were wearing, along with samples stapled to the letter. Pinned to the letter, not stapled, and descriptions of how long they were going to be in mourning, and the family over in America saying to the daughter who just lost her child over in Europe, we are going to continue wearing mourning for this long as support for you. We can't be there for you right now, so this is the closest thing we can do. As she had previously said, she's putting on mourning in order to feel like she's there because her father died and she's all the way over in Europe and can't get back because of war and everything. And so they were using mourning attire as a way to feel included and involved, like as like a communication through distance, feeling like they were there with the family when they couldn't actually be. It's so fascinating. Like, I wish we had paperwork like this for more families, because the life that comes out of these letters. But it is on my list of things to do when I am old enough to retire. Is going to be just literally writing a book about this family and going through every single piece of paper and physical object we have of them in the archive and writing a big, dramatic, completely non-fictional account of this story. I am so excited for it. Because they have everything. I have a ton of her, like, pictures of her letters. Yeah, it's just, I never thought of mourning wear like that either. Yes, they're Bradley, that's it. Bradley Codman. Yes. Sarah Ogden Codman is, yeah, her mother. There we go. That was the complicated stuff. Not her mother. What about her grandmother? Yeah, Sarah Fletcher Bradley Codman. There's too many names. But yeah, she was born in 1842. Tons of photographs of them. Like, it's just... There's so much. It's so good. Like, it's just drama, but in like a... Not like over-the-top fake way. Not like drama for the sake of drama. Yeah, Sarah... She got called Sally most of the time. So... Which I'm sure to help differentiate. But she actually witnessed the Boston Fire, because she could see it from their house, which was technically not in Boston. Now it is considered like in Boston. It's up by over where the college is, over to the the west side of the city, and so she actually was in the middle of writing a letter to her sister, and it's like I put kid down to bed, looked outside, and was like, why is it glowing? And realized I think there might be something happening in Boston, like looks like a large fire or something. I don't know. We don't know what's happening. Hopefully we'll find out in the morning. I'll continue writing this when I know more. And then she picks up the next day and was like, everyone's saying the entirety of Boston burned down and it's absolutely horrible and everything was on fire and disaster and we don't know what to think. The trains aren't running into the city right now, so we're gonna have to find a carriage, like a thing to get us into town, because they just took the train back and forth. And her talking about how they need to get into town because their money was caught up in property. All of their properties burned down to the ground. So they had like a period of time where they actually moved to Europe because they didn't have enough money. They shut down their house temporarily and had to go over to Europe because it was cheaper to live in Europe in the 1870s than it was over in America. So they went over and lived there for like 5 years. It was a common thing, like Charles Dickens did it, everybody else did, like it was just a thing. But yeah, so she talks about finally getting into town and walking around town, and her parents and one of her sisters lived in town. Their houses were okay, but a lot of the properties that friends and family had weren't. And they had to walk around town all day because there was a horse disease that was going around at the time, so they were already low on horses, and like a couple other things that added up to why it was so bad. But she goes through and describes the reasons why the fire happened and why it was so bad, like from a historical perspective, they understood that, so yeah. So it was just the amount of description and like the normal person viewing big events. It's so expensive here, I'm moving to England. Yeah. To be honest, I could say that here. With the way things are going. That is I can't even begin to tell you how expensive stuff has gotten out where I live. Oh, so bad. Okay. I don't need to chalk these things out. They're the last few small things. I know where they go. So, I need to roll this back down to the other end and actually start putting the pattern stuff together. But, yeah, I live in an unfortunately expensive place, which is one thing with the fact that, like, my house price is going up. Fine, I've already bought the house. It's not like that changes anything. Hi, baby. I know, I gotta move this chair, though. But just cost of living is so expensive out here. There are no state income taxes, but everything else is pretty awful. Yeah. Yeah, our thing here is that we have, we are really close to California, and the tech industry is moving here. So, brighten that up a smidge. It's always the wrong way. So we're basically competing out here with people who have California levels of money. So if you sell a house, a lot of times it's actually people are buying up houses with cash, and it's just driving prices up so fast. It's definitely could not sell and buy a new house out here at this time. Not feasible. Barely made it out here when we did, sort of thing. Yeah, we're somewhere around $4 a gallon right now. For something. I don't deal with that much because I don't leave the house much. So, truly, honestly. I'm not the one that drives everywhere. Yeah, buying houses on arrival sight unseen, yep. Yeah. Hopefully, I don't need it to change because obviously I'm not buying a house out here anytime soon. If anything, I'd be selling a house. So I'm not like concerned with the rising housing prices out here in the same way that I'm sure a lot of people are, but it's just, like, obviously it's doing a lot to more than just housing prices. So, yeah. What are you doing, Bailey? You're making an awful lot of noise for a little dog. You're supposed to be taking a nap. Yeah. Thankfully, like, we have a, as much as it's not exciting and as it keeps being put, the least ideal car ever in terms of the actual car itself, a Prius. But that's great for mileage, so I can't be mad about that part of it. Even if the rest of it is just severely disappointing. And then our other car is the first car I ever got in college. So it's still going. It's still fine. Doesn't have as good a mileage, but oh yeah, rent in America. It used to be decent. Even like 10, 15 years ago wasn't nearly this bad, but the rent here is absolutely insane. That's one of the reasons our housing prices are also going up. Because we have a problem currently where companies or really rich people buy a bunch of houses, which is why they're buying them sight unseen because they don't really care, and then rent them. And so there are all these big, expensive houses that are up for rental or up for vacation home rental, like Airbnb sort of stuff. So actually finding a house that you can buy is hard. Finding anything you can rent, because those same really rich people are fighting against putting in decent-sized rental units. They want, like, houses, and if you rent a house, that's a lot of space for one family. But you get more money out of that. It's just, yeah. What are you doing? So yeah, rental prices are absurd. They didn't used to be like that. Now they are. Like, when I was in college, I should go look at what the cost of the apartments where I went to college are. Go find because I guarantee my apartment's still there. It was a tiny little studio apartment. But it was only $500 a month. I doubt I'd find anything remotely close to that anymore. Oh, don't you start. Alright, I think this is one of the ones where I do want to put the extra seam allowance there. It was tiny, but I don't think you could find anything. Yeah, $500 a month. It had a pretty good sized bathroom because the bathroom is meant to be accessible. So I actually put a lot of storage in the bathroom. The regular room was just a largish bedroom, but so I just had like a futon and a desk and like a shelf unit thing from IKEA. That was all I could manage and fit in there. But yeah, $500 a month. Living alone, and it had a washer and dryer in it, and that included utilities. This was back in 2003 to 2008. So right before everything crashed and then prices just... But I mean, it was not exactly in like a... It was really close to campus, but it was also Indiana. So, like, we're not talking like a super trendy... Like, the only people that were renting in that area were students. No one else was just gonna move into that. But it was right up against campus and... really ideal location. But yeah, and that's the thing, like, even when you're like, when people talk about, oh, well, you should be able to live off of blank per month, it's like, it's been 15 years, and that I guarantee that exact apartment probably goes for about $1,500 now. Not the $700 or $800 that it should be if you actually just followed like what people are getting paid differences. So, yep. Don't do the wrong lines. Gotta get rid of the lines that I don't want. There we go. Nice and clear. I'm really curious now. Go look that up. Oh my goodness, what? Come here. If you are so upset, come here. I will love you. Yeah. Put her on a chair, put her up on the sofa or something. She wants to be fussy about it, that's fine, but like... I should probably actually chalk the lines I'm supposed to stitch on. That was kind of the point of this. That's why I'm just marking seam allowance. That's not helpful at all. We went downstairs, we did all the things. You're good. Yeah, mine was like a, I don't know, it was like 500 square foot. That was for something, 480, I don't know. But it was appropriate for a college student who didn't really want to live with people. It's like, yeah, I wasn't exactly going to have people over to my apartment to hang out, but oh well. I did have to live in the dorms my freshman year with somebody else. That was very unpleasant. Made me realize I didn't want to do that again. Like, which was nothing else. Like, she was the problem there. Oh. I'm sure she'd say I was horrible, but not sure what I would have done other than not talk to her. She didn't talk to me either, so. What? What? So sad. So tragic. Yeah. More and more, I'm like, I mean, we had a housemate person for a while, but that's just like you end up with a friend who moves into your area and, you know, stays with you for a while, or somebody who's moving between. We almost ended up with somebody else staying with us for a while because he sold his house and is getting a new house built, and it's gonna, you know, take a while, and so he thought about moving in with us, and then realized, yeah, he just wanted to get an apartment so he could have the people around or whatever. So, like, it comes up, even older age, and I think more and more people are, like, open to it as, like, couples living together, or things. Like, I know a lot of people that cohabitate with, like, my age, but my pattern is without seam allowance, and so I'm drawing. It's probably kind of hard to see, but yeah, I'm drawing the lines. So. Couldn't turn around the shower stall. Oh no, that's rough. Sounds very European. That's been my experience with European showers. Like, I've been to Europe quite a few times, but the first time I went to Germany, that was the most entertaining one. So, staying in a hotel in Berlin, and it was a very retrofitted, like, interesting place, to say the least. I generally recommend it to most people when they go to Berlin. I'm like, no, actually, it's a great hotel. But the first couple nights, it was just me, and then my friend was moving out of her like, temporary apartment situation, and then we were going to be taking a trip around as, like, the final, yay, you've been here for, like, however many months doing school stuff, and it was, like, a not long-term school, but, so, I was just by myself in, like, a little studio type, you know, one room, hey, place, and it had the tiniest shower I've ever dealt with, which would have been one thing, because I've definitely ended up with that shower otherwise, where, you know, you close the door and there's that much space, like, it's rounded off, you have, like, that much width, same thing, it's just a rounded corner, where, like, there's no way that you're not just if you open the door while the shower was on, it'd just go right out the shower. The problem wasn't that. I'm pretty, like, small. I'd manage. The problem was the fact that it also had the light on a timer. And it was motion sensor. So... and it didn't catch the motion in the shower. So every once in a while the light would turn off and you'd have to reach your hand out of the shower. Like, as little as you could open it so the water wasn't pouring out onto the floor and wave your arm around. I was like, oh no. Because there were no windows in that bathroom either. So there was no light. When the light turned off, there was no light. The first time that happened, I tried, like, don't scream, don't scream. Oh, that was an experience. But, great hotel. Once you learned that that was the way it worked, it was fine. It was just really scary the first time. Cement truck. Jeez, you're loud. I'm gonna say that, and the back next. Okay. I'm not gonna draw the collar just yet. Because I want to double check the shape of that before I do. Don't want to waste any fabric. No, come back in. Yeah, I shut you out of the room. You went out of the room and you're being an ass. So. Oh man, yeah, that hotel is nothing but fun stories. It was a really good place. Like, it was nice. The beds were nice. The breakfast was really nice. It's in a great location. You're really close to one of the U-Bahn stations. And, like, there's this nice little cafe just, like, the next street over. And so, yeah, like, I know a few people that have gone to Berlin. I was like, this is the place... Like, depending on who the sort of person it is, it's like, this is the place you want to go. Because it's not for everybody. It's an interesting hotel. It is LGBTQ friendly. That is the way that it is advertised. It is over a very, like, hoppin' gay bar. Like, discotheque style. And it is... used to be a hotel for a specific sort of more adventurous clientele. So there's a lot of places to, like, tie things to the furniture and, like, because they're like, we changed the mattresses and all that out, but we kept the bed frames because those are fine. So they're just really interesting bed frames. And, like, setup is really... the only one that was really the second room we stayed in, that was meant for multiple people. The weird thing was that there were, like, windows in the bathroom door. They had put, like, a frosted thing over, but it didn't do much. Like, thankfully my friend and I were comfortable, like, around each other, like, it was fine. But... it was like, oh, this was clearly meant to be a little more, adventurous of a room. Because, like, it was so hilarious. But it was inexpensive and very clean and in a good location and very friendly. So, like, I always recommend that place to people, but, like, most of my friends are either LGBTQ or, like, very supportive of that. So it's like, that's what it's meant to be. So, yeah, it was greatly amusing. Hobbit gay bar. I need a Hobbit gay bar. Oh my gosh. That would be... someone make that. How do we not have, like... cottagecore lesbian bar. Hobbit. Need. But yeah. Okay. Refocus. Anyway. I have not been back to Berlin, so I have not got to go back to that hotel. Like, we stayed at the beginning and the end of the trip. It was wonderful. I was also impressed at how good the soundproofing was. You did not hear despite how loud the bar was outside, you did not hear it inside. It was great. You literally have to pass out on the toilet, you know. And see, that would make sense, but, like, putting it in a hotel bathroom where you're gonna take, like, a shower. Like, some people take long showers. Some people take, like, a half-hour shower. I don't. So it definitely was not set to be that. It was more like a set to, like, a 5-minute timer. So... You ended up serving drinks because you were the only one that could fit down into the cellar. Oh my goodness. That is a really entertaining story. This is why travel is important. I think this is one of the things that I feel I'm missing so much right now. Like, because the things that you experience, and it doesn't have to be necessarily, like, specific to the area that you go in terms of culture. Sometimes it's just, like, when you get out of your comfort zone, funny things happen. Bad plan for, yeah, I'll keep it to scissors. Oh, got stuck in the stairwell, oh no. Yeah. Oh goodness. I'm hoping to do more travel this year, but, like, and the thing is, because clearly this is the point where everyone else is getting, like, desperate to do fun things, I keep getting all of these offers for trips and things that they're all around the same time, and it is filling up too fast and I can't do them all. I just had something else come up today. I'm like, I would have to travel to Europe for a few days, come back home all the way to the West Coast. It'd be different if I lived in, like, New York or something, but no. All the way to the West Coast, be home for a week and a half, and then do it all again to be on a 3-week European trip, and then back again, and then off to the East Coast, and then back again, and then off for another European 2-week trip. I am already, like, looked at this, like, I want to go to this, but I don't think I can, because if it was, like, a week or two later, I might smush it together, but, like, being gone for probably 3 weeks anyway, already, I don't think I can add another, like, 2 weeks to that. Like, that's too much. That's a lot. I have a dog. If I didn't have a dog, I'd be like, whatever, bye. I'm like, no, I miss my dog. 3 weeks is my max away from pet family. I've already promised myself that, like, when Bailey goes, I'm just gonna go take, like, 3-month European tour or something. I just need to move back to the East Coast. Freaking West Coast. Can't get to anything. I don't have Pennsylvania on my plan at the current moment, but someday. Again, I need to get back there. I almost went last year, but it just didn't work out. No, it's one of those places, Pennsylvania is one of those places that's more likely to just be a random thing I add to my list, but I don't know. Because I know so many people there. I don't know. Because unfortunately now I'm reaching that, like, I haven't done much for so long that I've got that, like, full on, like, no, there are things. I'll be sad if I don't go to the thing. Nah. Why am I in the state that I'm in now? Because I moved out here for a job that I don't do anymore. For a long list of reasons. Same reason Abby was out here. Same reason Chrissy was out here. We all moved out here for a job. We all no longer live here. Well, okay, no, I can't say that. I still live here. They don't live here anymore. I still do. But, yeah. It's a little harder for me to move than for them. See how much I can fidget this, and because undersleeve, so it's like I could be a little off grain with that technically. Yeah, not the worst. Actually, that's pretty on grain. Okay, that should work. Oh yeah. Well, I am stuck here for the current moment because it's not just me, so. Oh, so Abby and I used to work for a company, that is a historical shoe company. She's talked about it a little before. It was, she got fired. She's open about that. I quit. I tried. It didn't. I couldn't anymore. So, yeah. Long list of reasons. But life is too short to be in a stressful job situation. And the pandemic definitely taught me that. To be in a situation where you don't know what's going on at any given time and stuff is... You're not trusted or listened to or anything. Just it's too stressful when just random things happen that are really important and you're like, you have no idea what was happening, going on, and it's just not good. So that was like, nope, I need control over what's going on in my life. Not knowing what every day was going to bring on a, like, just crazy level, chaos level of things, not in like a has to be, but just, oh yeah, we just didn't tell you. Like, so I'm done. I tried. And I think that's one of my only, like, regrets of that, is that I wish that I would have just not gone that long, that I would have just quit earlier. But I didn't want it to look like I was quitting because Abby got fired, even though that was, like, part of it, but it was already an issue before that, so. But yeah, basically it just came down to, like, this is not worth my life. I was like, I'm gonna have to start going to a therapist to deal with this trauma. Nope, we're done. That's the moment you're like, is there another option? Yeah, but I'm gonna take that option. So. But I stayed because of Chrissy, who technically does still work there, though she is long distance, so that is helpful. Ma'am. Yeah. So, are you going to be calmer now? Just a little bit more? Or are you going to keep being just as fussy? So, yeah, my only regret is that, just because there was a lot of great stuff happening that I was too busy to take part in, and it was very sad that I could not involve myself in many things going on that I wish I could have. It would have been really beneficial to my channel at the time. So, yeah. Okay. So, can I get this in here? I don't like how much of an angle it's at. How did I end up with that before? Just because I shifted it down that much? I know I did, but that shouldn't. Because, like, I know I don't need this much. That's the frustrating part. Alright, I know I can get rid of a little bit of this corner. Because there will be a dart in the other one, so I at least can justify that aspect. It should straighten things out enough. Yeah. Okay. Better. Oh, have fun in class. Yeah, my rule with jobs, which is tough right now, but I think it's the same thing that everyone else is being aware of, that you either have to make a lot of money, have a lot of, like, future upward mobility, whatever it is, like, there has to be a future in this, an investment in it, whether it's a, like, working up a literal job ladder or, investing in a company that's going to grow and you will be part of that investment and you will, like, be part of the company sort of thing. Like, there's some sort of future investment in there, or it has to be something you really love doing. And I always say, if you have one of those three, you can stay in a job for a while, but it's going to be very stressful and exhausting if you only have one of those three. If you have two of those three, you're going to stick with that job for a while. And you will recognize that you are, like, losing out on something of that aspect. Like, there is a sense, but sometimes you can find those things in other parts of your life. If you have a job where you got a lot of upward mobility and you're making a lot of money, but you don't really love doing it, or you can have a hobby, that's okay. Like, that is very survivable. If you have all three, then that's, like, an ideal situation. But, and, like, that was the worst part, is I thought I had all three. Hey! When you think you have a job with all three, and then it turns out, nope. So, but yeah, that's kind of the way that I look at things. So, like, now I'm in a situation where I'm a little closer to having all three. It's just a lot of effort. Like, technically do what I do now. I love doing the work. I love talking to people and having conversations and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But, and, like, I'm making a decent amount of money. It's, like, not amazing for where I live, but it's pretty good, and it just takes a very large amount of effort. But the effort that I put in comes right back to me, so. Yeah. Customer service as part of so many jobs. What are you doing? That was a large part of my previous job. That's a very good way to describe it. You've had too many jobs with people in charge who are very controlling but didn't actually know what they were doing and how to manage people. There's a big difference between knowing how to manage a business and how to manage employees. That's a real big difference. Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things they say, the vast majority of the reason why people quit on average is because of whoever is managing them, their supervisor, their boss, whatever it is. that's usually the reason why people quit or even stay, is that. Like, and so, like, by all standards, that is the biggest and most important thing in order to keep your workforce. And some companies operate doing that. Some companies operate on the idea that they're going to have a lot of loss and turnover and whatever. They just deal with it like Amazon, you know, very expendable sort of concepts. But if you're a small company, you shouldn't be functioning with the, like, whatever, you know, employees just have to deal with it sort of concepts. Like, you really need to keep your employees. That is incredibly important for small businesses. Which basically comes down to, don't, like, make sure that there's good management and good systems in place for that in an organization. Like, have an HR company and all that stuff, so that way you know what you're doing and it's being done right. Those overlap a little bit, but I will just, I want that extra seam allowance there. That's fine if I make a funky shape. Yeah, the boss is fine with you doing side gigs. That's also helpful. People leave bad supervisors, not bad jobs. Yep. It's very true. Like, I mean, statistically, it's true. So. Like, the likelihood of finding a job that is, like, everything you've ever wanted in terms of the actual work, no. You're always going to have to do something you don't want to do. There's always going to be some unpleasant portion of it, even if it's something that you really enjoy doing. But if things are constantly getting in your way of doing your job, then, yeah. Like, that's the final straw. Okay. Facing added. Rattles twitch. Ad falls out. No. Okay, this is my pile I've already done. Cool. Feels much later than it actually is. It's recovered. Hooray! Okay, scoot this down a little bit further. Ooh, yeah, a good thing you left that job. Goodness. Yeah, it's kind of like all those, like, people that missed their flight, missed their, like, the Titanic stuff, where it's like, oh yeah, they, didn't make it on board because they couldn't, like, something happened, and the almost. Yeah, the stress of being treated as a repetitive robot that can just continue to do things without, like, actual incentive or change. Like, yeah, people are not good at that. Like, that's where robots are good for what robots do, etc., etc. Like, and, like, AI situations. And those things should always be heavily relied upon used because they are so inexpensive now. So you shouldn't have situations set up where humans are having to do things that are absolutely repeatable like that. which extends like not just like physically like doing something versus a robot. I mean like also making sure that things like automated emails responses or you know, I mean that as much as people hate the call someplace and you don't get a real person machine sort of thing, like the amount of effort that saves when like the vast majority of customer service phone calls are for really obvious simple things. Like as frustrating as that is, I just like the system just needs to be, are you here for one of these things that are it's really simple and we can give you that information in an automated manner, or do you actually need to talk to a human? And like 50% of the phone calls will be, oh, I just wanted to ask about this thing. Cool, we have that on automated. Like, you can listen to this recording. That's fine. And that's what you just, stuff like that. Okay. I am crunchy. My goodness. Man, well, that's the thing, like, so many people, bless them, just want to talk. And then there's a difference between having a question and just wanting to talk. And that difference is usually about 30 minutes of my time. Bless so many of them. It's like, oh, you do have a question, but we're going to take a real roundabout trip to get there. All right, you're bored. I wish I knew what that was like. Oh, yeah. I need to sharpen my chalk. It's starting to bite me. Yeah. I know way too much about people's feet. More than I will ever need to know in my life. It's one of the things I like to say. Like, I don't need that information. Okay, where is my knife? Yay. Where it should be. I'm making a mess. It was the, I need to get a chalk sharpener. I really do. Is there a way to clean off chalk from a thing other than brushing or washing? It depends on the type of chalk and the thing. I usually just go with like the actual just rubbing of a piece of fabric and it just goes away. That tends to be my method. But then again, most of the time it just wears away as you go. But I also specifically make sure that I'm using not super waxy chalk because that's the stuff that sticks longer, but it's then you can end up like it doesn't want to leave or it can smudge and discolor. So I always make sure that I've got a really like a actual chalk, not a wax chalk. Important differences. All the reminder things, yeah. Oh, garden reminders. That would make sense. That'd be good. Yeah, I can leave this up and over here. Let me figure out what size of pocket opening I need on this. Okay. I wish I could do more garden-y stuff. It's just not really an option out here. There's only so many things I can do that won't just die. Like, it was fun at first being like, alright, what are these new plants? And now I'm like, alright, they're all the same plant. We move on to something else now. Okay. So that is, obviously the pocket doesn't even start till somewhere in that range. But I don't know how far down that's gonna go. At least to there. Oh, we have a communal garden at work. Cool. Yeah, we have snow today. It's all melted though. In the time that I've been talking to you guys, there is now no snow outside. But it was really warm there for a while and it's warmed back up. Yeah, I definitely need to fertilize some stuff this year. They had a rough year last year, so. At least they're starting off this year a little bit better. Okay. We have frozen trousers roughed out. I will need to get a fly. Nope, it's not long enough. It'll be down there somewhere. I don't think I have any place that would really get that. But this would actually be a good scrap piece for the pocket, if nothing else. As would all that, actually. That's going to be better. A little bit over on the side. Ooh, no, that'd be good. Oof. Yeah, well, I mean, we range pretty far in terms of what the temperature is here. It goes up and down so much. Because that is the one thing that is consistent about desert, is the fact that the nighttime to daytime is dramatic. I don't even know what, like... I'm gonna look up the temperature right now. I don't know what it is in Celsius. I don't know if I can find that. Because we go from... Because we're below freezing at night by just a smidge, but we get up to... this time of the year, we've been getting up to between 50 and 60 in the day, but that would... I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Whatever is just a little chilly, but not cold, but not what you set your house at. There you go. Roughly that. So, yeah, we get up to around 9 during the day right now because of winter, but we're down to 0. Below 0 at night, so, in terms of Celsius. Okay. Trying to ignore life that keeps messaging me, being like, here's things you need to do. I'm like, no, not right now. Busy. We're doing this. At least getting a couple more pieces. I really should stop. So I have these 2 pieces. I have the other sleeve piece and the side pieces. Side piece and some collar. I think so. I'm probably about the point where I need to stop and figure out what I'm going to do for lunch. That's kind of important. Take care of all of the alerts on my phone that have been... Nothing seems dramatic, it's just a normal assortment of... Everyone seems to want to message me in the mornings. Everyone. I cannot help you. Okay. Yeah, food is excellent because it's noon here, so. Yeah, progression of plants. So. Okie dokie. Yep, I gotta go too, because I have a lot of stuff that needs to... I have a lot of stuff that needs to be taken care of, but that got me through, like, half of the wool stuff I need to do. I should be able to... I need to order more wool for the skirt today, order lining fabric, and I will get to cutting stuff out. I have a feeling my Friday is just going to be me sitting and basting and doing some detail stuff and talking about interfacings and stuff like that. So, but yeah. So yeah, I'll be back on Friday morning. Like I said, I'll probably just be fidgeting with more of this stuff as I'm trying to fit in between. I don't think I'll get a lot of sewing done because I've got some video stuff I need to get done this week. But I should be able to get this all cut out, all the parts cut out, and we should be able to get going on some of it, maybe some hand stitching portions. Some stuff that's long and repetitive. We'll see. But cool. Thanks guys for hanging out and keeping me doing what I need to be doing rather than just sitting on the sofa. So, see you guys around. Bye.